and you finally realize you've hit that age? Okay, so here's the thing. I was born in the 80s, so I have this weird niche of being an in-betweener. Now, I call it being an in-betweener because my parents were from the 60s and 50s, and then a lot of the people in my family that I hung out with were all born in the late 60s or 70s. So for me, those were like my brothers and sisters, so those are the people I hung out with. So in regards to television, music, things that I tend to prefer tend to be from a whole other generation that's right before me. So most of my friends nowadays tend to be in their 40s, their 50s, and even in their 60s. Those are the people I tend to be a little more comfortable with, and I'm a little more like, hey, I'll mingle with you. Like, I can't help it. So it's weird because there are some things that I pick up from them in habit where they're always telling me that great moment when they realized that they were getting old, and they're like, oh. And for me, it's just a weird moment of frustration. So, like, I think of the moments that they're telling me, and then I think of the moments when I realize, oh, crap, I'm going through that moment myself. Let me start with the first one. Knowing items that apparently the younger generation has never heard of. So, I was in a store a couple of years ago, and I was looking for a tape rewinder. And if you don't know what a tape rewinder is, it's basically this really fancy red car that you put a tape inside of, and it rewinds your tape, so you don't have to use your VCR. Yeah, I still have my VCR. I still use it. I love all my tapes. I still watch them. So I go around. I was like, I'm tired of rewinding my tapes. Let me see if they still have a tape rewinder. I'm walking around Best Buy, PC Richards. I'm walking through all the stores. Like, I'm going to find what I'm looking for. Silly me. So I finally end up approaching like this little 14-year-old kid who's working at the shop. Great summer job. I'm like, oh, this is so great. I used to do summer jobs too, even though my summer jobs are completely more different. But sure, whatever. So I approach him and I was like, hey, and it's going to sound a little weird, but do you guys still sell the tape rewinders? And he stares at me more or less like, oh, what? And I'm standing there going, oh, he's about to have an aneurysm. Do you have anyone who's 35 and above who may know what I'm talking about? So he calls over his supervisor, and his supervisor walks over, and he's more or less like, hey, what are you looking for? He says he didn't know what you were looking for, and I'm like, a tape rewinder. So the guy looks at me and goes, oh my God, like he suddenly like recognized we're the same age. We're around the same generation. And I was like, are you okay, mister? Because you sound like one of those teachers who's been surrounded by kids for too long, and then they get excited whenever they see an adult because that's the only adult conversation that they've had for the day. And that's the kind of interaction he gave me. Like, oh my God, it's another one. And I'm like, calm down, sir. I just want to tape rewind and back up. So he's like, they stopped making those and we don't sell them anymore, but you might be able to find it off the internet. He goes, I find it's kind of hard to find because even I've been looking for one. And I was sort of like, phew. Someone knows what I'm talking about. And then it felt weird because then I look at the kid and he's looking at the two of us like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what is this tape rewinder? And I'm thinking to myself, like, it's in the title. The other thing that happens is that there's this chick that I know. She's only 5 years younger than me, which my mind every time, because sometimes I'll be talking about like the old computers, the Commodore 64, 128, the Amiga, and I'll talk about the floppy disk. And like, and one time I was making a joke with a group of people, and they were talking about, like, hey, remember the floppy disk? And we were just cracking jokes, like, hey, if you didn't put the arm down, it didn't load. We were talking about it. We were just going back and forth. And it was so weird because I had joined the conversation, and I think she thought I was actually younger than her. So she joined in like, I know what that is, but she had no idea. So she was trying to ask questions like, so what kind of floppy disk, like, what kind of thing is that? So when I started explaining to her what it was, she gave me this look like, you don't know what it is. Like, we're like the same age. And I'm staring at her like, we are the same age, but for some reason, there seems to be like this age division between the two of us that's as big as the Atlantic Ocean. And I'm not sure why, because you're only but a few years younger than me. And I keep thinking, did it really change that much in 5 years? Possibly. Starting to feel old. With them, I felt much more at ease in conversing in regards to like, oh my God, this is cool. Like, remember this, remember that, remember this, remember that. And then she's standing there on the side staring at me like, how old are you? And then I was just sort of like, don't make me slap you. But like, I run into those moments a lot where I'll be talking about something and they genuinely stare at me like, what is that? And are you a dinosaur? And I'm like, yeah, the T-Rex. When an older generation only tends to approach you. So here's the thing. Every now and then I'll get like some young kid who was like, yo, mom, what's up? You looking good. And I'm like, that's cute. Are you old enough to drink? Like, you know, like that's pretty much like, it's like, okay, that's nice. Sit. I'm going to leave and I'm not going to return. I'm going to go out and get a pack of cigs, okay? I promise I'll be back. Like, it's more or less like one of those kind of things. And it's weird because there are times that when I go out, I've noticed that generally there seems to be a certain generation that tends to approach me the most. And it tends to be the men from the 70s or 60s. Every single time. Like, whether we're hanging out as friends or if they're like, hey, I'm single, you single, how do we do this? And I'm like, no, do nothing. I'm selfish. And so, but it's weird because I noticed that I'm like at this weird gap where only they're the ones that only approach me, and it's like they can sniff it out of me. Like, most people look at me and go, you look really young, like you don't look like you're in your 30s. And I was like, yeah, I am, thank you. Is that even a compliment? You know, when you tell a woman like, you look really good for someone who's over 30, like no matter even if you're 30 itself or 39, people will say that to you, and I'm not even sure if that's a compliment because it just sounds like you're supposed to look like an old hag by now. Impressive. What do? Do you use anti-hag oil on your face? Like, is that what it is? And I kind of feel like I should just have like a green wart on my face, and I'm like, and I'm just like, is that what's supposed to happen once I hit 30? Like, well, come on, man. What's your problem? Anyways, getting sidetracked. But for the most part, that's how I know, like, I'm getting there. My preference in music and movies and television shows. Okay, so here's the thing. I grew up watching a lot of the shows from the 80s, the 70s, Laverne and Shirley. You know, whether it was Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, it didn't matter. Like, I remember my mom mentioning shows like Maude, which someone said I reminded them of, which I wasn't really allowed to watch because I think she was outspoken, like Jem, because she's really outrageous. And, you know, I was always outspoken and honest and brutally honest as a child. I think my mom was like, she doesn't need any other encouragement. Hide these shows from her. You know, it was bad enough that, you know, little Audrey and Dennis the Menace were my role models growing up. You know, I don't think she was like, Maude? No. Jem? No. Besides, my favorite part in Jem were the Misfits. But that's actually what I prefer to watch. And I find myself I'm looking on Netflix, you know, looking for Welcome Back, Kotter, that kind of thing. And I'm like, welcome back. Like, I'm in there, like, singing the theme songs. Like, I recognize them. Like, you know, and it's not just watching, like, the Jeffersons or anything like that. Those are all the shows that I would prefer to watch. And it's weird because whenever I look at Martin shows, I feel lost and confused. I'm in this weird niche where I'm just sort of like, these are my preferences? No! You know, and I don't know how to fix it. And then I realized that's because I'm climbing over the hill. And it's funny because it's not even my hill. It's just where my mental frame is. Because I hung out with everyone who was much older than me. And those were all the shows we watched, you know. Shemazel. Yeah, Mom. This is your fault that I don't even know what age group I belong in. I'm just saying. There's something wrong when you go to the movie theater to go watch Scream, and then you see on the screen Henry Winkler pops up, and you're like, ah! Oh my God! Guys! Henry Winkler's in this. This is exciting. And then all your friends are looking at you like, who the f is Henry Winkler? And that was the moment I'll never forget inside the movie theater. My friends were staring at me like, who's Henry Winkler? And I was devastated when they killed him in that movie. I was like in tears, like, no one kills the fawns. Because me and my mom were obviously married to him when we talked and watched the show. Except I got to meet him. I'll save that story for another time. She's gonna get me for that. My odd preference in clothing. Let me explain. Okay, when I walk outside, I not only look like a walking game character, like I walked out of the scene of Final Fantasy, but also the fact is that for some odd reason, I'll pick out clothes that just predominantly revolve around the 80s and occasionally 70s or 60s. And I know this because I'll wear certain outfits and I'm like, oh, this is cute. This is a nice dress. And every now and then, like, I'll see my mom in these outfits and she'll just look at me and go, what made you pick that dress? And I'm like, I don't know. And she'll just be like, I bought you a dress just like that when you were 3. And it'll just be weird because then I'm just sitting there like, so you're saying I look like a 3-year-old, or are you trying to say I'm dressing like a certain time era? What you trying to say? Like, and a lot of times if I'm dressed like the 60s and 70s, again, that same generation will be like, hey, how are you doing? Good morning. You look very lovely in that dress. And it's really weird because they approach me like I am the hottest thing on this planet. And when it comes to my looks, I don't really think about my looks. I'm sorry, I don't even know what was in front of me. I lost my train of thought. But they'll approach me like I am like shabang-a-bang. Like I am Farrah Fawcett, like, whoa! Hello, boys. Like, that's how they treat me, like I'm Jessica Rabbit, you know. And it's weird because it all revolves around my choice of clothing. And it's just weird because I can't figure out why I can't dress intentionally young. So now when I walk through stores, I intentionally try, and I'm like, I can't dress young. Oh, that's hideous. Why would anyone ever put that on? That is so stupid. Like, the closest I get to wearing things are like you from Uniqlo. That's one of the signs for me that I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting there. When I can't remember a moment in time, well, like just the other day ago, someone was like, man, you look exhausted. You should drink some coffee. And I was like, I haven't drank coffee in like... since yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Like, I was seriously trying to convince myself. I don't even know what happened. Because, like, I had blanked out so badly that I was like, I can't. When did I drink? Oh, I was in college. All right, hold on. I can do math. Okay, it's 2016. When was the last time you were in college? Has it been that long? It hasn't been that long. Oh, crap. It's been that long. And, you know, meanwhile, inside my head, this is all what's happening. And the person staring at me like, I was just suggesting for you to drink some coffee. What's going on in there? And I'm still stuck in my head like, oh, my God. It has been that long. Why haven't I drank a cup of coffee in so long? I mean, I love my tea, but why haven't... conversation. Oh, yeah. No, I might have a cup of coffee. I didn't. Hashtags. Okay, so I do social media marketing also. For my company here. Innovations. I know I'm always throwing that advertisement in there. You can't help it. They're wonderful. But I do the social media marketing for it, and part of the social media marketing. Wow, what did I say? Blah, 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 blah. All right, now that I got the Tasmanian devil out of my system, let's go with this. Because I do the social media marketing, I'll be like, oh man, you have to do hashtags. You know, it's like putting out a sign above your head going, I'm talking about what's current. Who wants to talk about it with me? And nobody talks to you directly. They just make comments about it next to you. That's pretty much what hashtags are. So when it first came across hashtags, I was sort of like, what is this thing? And why would I be like, hashtag YOLO? What is YOLO? Like, I had to question it. And then I had to pretend that I knew what it was. Because somebody younger than me was like, yeah, you know, YOLO. And I was like, yeah. The f are they talking about? Like, had no clue. And it's weird because sometimes I'll hear kids talking and they use nothing but hashtags, and then I'm sitting there like, you know, like a scientist, you know, and I feel like I need like, you know, there's that new gadget where you put it into your ear and it translates for you. I feel like they should have that for adults, for teenagers. I just feel like that should just be fair. That should be like an option, and they're like, do you understand your teenage child? Oh, you're asking for milk. Why didn't you just say that? Like, this is hashtag that I've noticed that happens with YouTube. It's called OOTD. I got no clue what it is. I just know it has something to do with fashion. And it's weird because that's how I know I'm feeling super old. And I'm like, I'm supposed to know these things. I was the generation that remembers dial-up and helped usher it into the welcomeness. I remember AOL and MySpace because a lot of people forgot about Tom. Okay? We haven't forgotten you, Tom. We still love you, Tom. We're still friends. You know, I remember the craziness of plugging in the phone to the computer when I wasn't supposed to. My mom be like, I'm going to be calling the house. You better not have that connected to the computer. And I'm like, of course not. She's at work. You know, using Napster, taking several days to download one song. You're like, yeah, this is fancy. I don't have to go to the store, but it was much faster to just go down to Virgin Records, down to 14th Street. And if you just went to Union Square to go to Virgin Records, you could buy the CD, come back, upload the song into your computer without giving yourself the blue screen of death, and then still be downloading the song on the other computer, and it would still take days afterwards. Like, it was terrible. You were much better off going in there and buying one of the singles, which they stopped doing because of Mariah Carey. But anyways, but that's... But that's how I know, like, I'm reaching this weird point because I just don't recognize hashtags, and the only abbreviations I recognize are like acronyms, and then I feel like I'm not sure if it makes me sound educated or just old. Clubbing. I'm lying. I don't go clubbing. I do not go to the hot, you know, to be like, hey, let's dance and let's boogie. Like, that's not what happens. Even though it's really just you in a dark club, like vampires with like neon lights, just go, you know, which is fine and dandy for anyone who enjoys it. But like, I went to this one club party thing. It was supposed to be it was supposed to be like a Victorian ball, and I was like, this is gonna be so exciting. So I dressed up. So to me, I was like, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to go to a masquerade ball. I've always wanted to go to a masquerade ball. So here's the thing. I get there, and there's all these kids who couldn't... Woo! There's all these kids, excuse me. There's all these kids there who weren't even old enough to drink because they had to wear special badges on their wrist to let you know that they couldn't have alcohol. Anyone who is my age and older came dressed for a masquerade ball. We all had the fancy gowns, the little mask, and 95% of the people that were there were all people who were too young to actually drink. So I'm not even sure how they got in there, because I was like, if you're like 18, 19, your parents let you come out to a club? My closest clubbing was like prom night. How'd you get outside? Like, so, all the kids are in the center. They got their crazy outfits on. They're like, and I'm just like, I'm trying to join you. I can't. Okay, I got the dress in one arm. Let's try this. Is that what we're supposed to do? Okay. This is so weird. I feel like I'm just jogging in place. I mean, I'm getting a great workout. Like, hey. You know, but it was weird for me. And until I stopped, and I was like, this is really hard to do in these dresses. This is not what I was expecting for a masquerade ball. And then I veer off to the side of the wall, and I saw everyone else who was my age and older dressed in gowns. Even the men were dressed in suits. They had their mask on. And they were the only ones that were old enough to drink, and they were all standing by the bar. And then I realized when I looked around me, I was in a sea of youth. And I was like, gee, I'm the oldest thing in here. Let me walk over to the wall where I belong. And I walked over to the side, and I just sort of stood next to them, and we all just kind of gave each other the nod. You know, and it was understood in this nod that obviously this party was not what we all were expecting. I had to call my friend up to be like, could you come bring me some hot shorts? Because I feel super old here. I feel stupid out here. Bring me some hot shorts and a tank top. No, I don't think it has to match. None of these kids, no, it's too dark in here. They wouldn't know. No, but I do look really weird because I have a big dress on and a mask. So Ralph shows up with my hot shorts and like my tank top because I had left it over at his house when I was helping him and his wife with the kid. So he gets there, and I was like, I'm going to go change. So I change, and I give him a big, huge ball gown, and he's staring at me like, are you sure you want to do this? And I was like, I can be young. Okay, let me go in here and try to be young. And it was weird, because every time I was in there, I was just like, this sucks. And that's one of the things when I realized also, I'm getting there. Just climbing up over that hill. Okay, guys, if you really enjoyed that video, be sure to give me some thumbs up, some commentary. Let me know when you felt like you were climbing over that hill. You know, and if you haven't gotten close to climbing that hill, you will. If you really enjoyed that video, be sure to let me know what's going on, what's your thoughts, and tell me about your moments and you felt like you felt really old and you had your sea of youth and you had that moment that I had. Okay, just be sure to share with me because I know I'm not the only one. Make sure that you check out for my shows always on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And if you haven't become an Apple Bite, be sure to click that button to subscribe.